it's again the most versatile one, so it's a common answer.
Same as me. And we can see the players are going into Armageddon. And you said you're a big fan of Magnus Carlsen and, of course, Hikaru Nakamura. And I'd like to thank you so much, Marcus, for coming into the studio and for your time.
Thank you.
Wow, and Magnus has brought us really good luck here in the studio because it's the King's Gambit. Wow, a romantic opening. You nearly never see this in the 21st century. And Judith, your eyes have lit up.
Absolutely, because this was my opening when I was a baby. I was starting out with this opening with 2f4, sacrificing the king pawn, and I was playing with bishop c4, not with this very aggressive, from the 18th century, we can say. Knight f7. No, not yet.
You want to give up pieces, lure that black king out into the open, but this is a older variation, as you mentioned, and yeah, it has a decent reputation, a solid reputation for black. I'm surprised Magnus has given back the pawn. No more King's Gambit. It is level material, and Hikaru looking away to the left there. That signifies he's trying to remember something. He normally has that face on when he's recalling opening theory. I've had this position myself against the likes of Nigel Short. And, okay, what will Hikaru play? I'm surprised he's gone in for this because Magnus had that World Championship match against Jan Nepomniachtchi in 2021, who had just released a chessable course on the King's Gambit. So Magnus will have studied this in recent times.
But novelty incoming. I mean, Hikaru's little pawn move, never been played before.
Okay. It doesn't look like the most impressive move, I've got to say, Judith. No
Now-
attacking chances for white.
Now there's kind of some transposition and 2 games in the database. What do you think?
It looks very good for black because black is much more developed right now, developed yet. And but it's really cool that we have a King's Gambit in an Armageddon. I played it last time, in 2010 or something. At some point I was playing a rapid event in Mexico. And I played against Topalov and I won. Very convincingly. I couldn't believe it myself.
It's like a nice exchange sacrifice or something on that. Was it, or some kind of sacrifice on f4 in that game, maybe? I remember watching it and thinking, wow, this is how chess should be played.
Yeah, that was shocking. That I don't even know why I came up with that idea to play King's Gambit. But here, really, white is in trouble from development point of view, right? I mean, knight is going to jump to e5 or d4 in a second. And you can't stop both.
Yeah, you can't stop both. Once the knight arrives on e5 or d4, maybe the bishop will come out. Black will be very quick to castle queenside. It doesn't look like the King's Gambit has worked out. This time it has backfired. This is unfortunately why it doesn't make an appearance more often at the top level.
Well, King's Gambit is something that is great if your opponent frightens from you, gets afraid. But Magnus is not that type of guy. He's going to be smiling on your f4, right?
Yeah, he's normally the one who puts in all the hard work to surprise the opponent, Magnus, and he's got given a position that he probably knows very well. A very quick play from him so far.
But we have seen 2 successful games in the Armageddon where the players have just played some wild position and they've sacrificed material and they're saying, black simply doesn't have enough time to handle all those complications, even though, let's face it, it probably is a great position for black. Because the games that I'm thinking of is like Shakira against Ariane. He just gave a pawn, had some initiative.
Yes, but that's a different story.
And yesterday, let's not forget that escape trick that Magnus pulled on her Wesley when he sacrificed the whole rook.
Yeah, but those were already middle game stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And from Mamedyarov, he just wanted to go into full complications. The problem is for white here that he just has no time to develop properly because what can you do? I mean, it's at first sight, it's really miserable. So knight c3, let's say, or okay, he went queen f2, kind of prophylactical move. Black, I think, will go knight e5, trying to jump to g4. But another idea is just to develop with the c8 bishop and even castle long. So the only problem for black is that there are so many tempting options. I think g3 is something that maybe the plan can be for white. That's why Magnus played rook g8.
Yeah.
This rook g8 is a different rook g8 than Abdusaturu made yesterday versus Starry.
This one we can understand, rook on an open file. But
Yeah.
yesterday a bit more mysterious. And okay, Hikaru threatening to jump into the center with the white knight. This was cut out by Magnus Carlsen. Bishop e6, really nice move, and both sides need to rush to castle. It feels like surely bishop d2 is going to happen, and white's king needs to run to safety before it's too late. I want to give credit to Hikaru though, I'm so glad he promised entertainment. Maybe this is why in the interview he was smiling. He knew what he was going to do in the Armageddon. He knew that he had a surprise up his sleeve. It might have backfired so far, but still early days.
Yeah, maybe I'm not fair that I said so many bad things about White's position. Maybe it's not as bad as it looked 2 moves ago.
I just don't see how you can be better. That's the problem, and you're in a must-win situation.
I think Hikaru is just being practical. He's saying, you know, I don't care about being better because the tussles will be happening in the later stages of the game. And if Hikaru is a bit more familiar with those positions, then, you know, he can handle them with great resourcefulness.
I like the queen on f2 actually, because it ties down the c6 knight and attacks the a7 pawn. So at some point knight d5 can be good, or even knight b5. The other idea is to go bishop e2 and then rook f1 and attack the f4 pawn. So black should know what he's doing.
Oh, and look at Magnus's last move. Trademark Magnus. Gonna go into an endgame.
Yeah, and not just wanting the queens off for safety, but I think it's directly correlated to Judith's point. The white queen was actually white's best piece potentially on f2, and white had some counter-attacking ideas there, so bullying the white queen back, if it wasn't a must-win situation, maybe Hikaru would have allowed that trade. Instead, he's been forced to retreat, and suddenly the white piece is back. It's Fischer Random, but we know he's Fischer Random world champion, Hikaru. Loads of the white pieces now on the back rank. What can black do to up the pressure, to maintain the momentum? If white does get 2 or 3 moves, he should be okay. Watch out for 92 as well, hitting the black queen, hitting the pawn on f4, and okay, preemptively, again, prophylaxis, just dropping back with the black queen. Maybe getting ready to plant the knight on the dominant d4 square.
Yeah, you kind of feel that white's best move is actually to put the queen back on f2, but of course Hikaru is in a must-win situation, cannot do that. And the thing that is concerning about white's position is how on earth is he going to develop the light squared bishop and the rook?
Well, this is the reason I like the queen d4 very much, what Magnus played in the previous move, because it's not only that he pushed away the very well-placed f2 queen because it was an attacker, but also it defended the g2 pawn. So right now bishop e2 is not exactly possible because the pawn is hanging on g2.
Okay, and a move from Hikaru. He does retreat, knight e2, and that move is given a question mark by the all-seeing engine. Why could that be a mistake?
It feels like you can get greedy and grab on a2.
The pawn.
I mean, hello.
Wow, that's Fischer-esque, taking on h2 in that World Championship match. Fischer, he doesn't go for it. Magnus, more practical decision, just playing f5. And okay, the cross there means maybe a missed opportunity for Magnus. Was that just capturing this pawn? It took courage. Instead, a safer decision from the former world champion. And g3 Hikaru fighting back now, utilizing this pin. The f4 pawn cannot be touched. You cannot take on g3. Maybe you can, but either way, you have to calculate well here.
Yeah, and it does feel that Magnus is losing a little of the control he had with this, especially with this last move by Hikaru. g3, great move.
And we should mention the clock time, 3.5 minutes now for Magnus, 4 minutes 50 almost for Hikaru Nakamura. I've seen these two face off in Title Tuesday multiple times where there's a 1 second increment. Magnus has lost on time countless times in their encounters. He always seems to flag against Hikaru, so he's going to get nervous if the clocks tick down. Meanwhile, f takes e4, Judith. Which one is Hikaru going to recapture?
I think g3 was something that Magnus was not expecting, and this is why I also thought after knight e2 is little attack on the f4 pawn, I want to go bishop c3, but actually g3 was the idea. gf is very logical. I think black, I don't know, bishop h3.
Bishop h3, right?
Yeah, feels strange to allow this move with tempo, lining up against the black king on the diagonal, hitting the black queen. Maybe he's just going to drop back. Maybe he'll just move his queen away and say, trade off bishops, please. Bishop h3, maybe he'll just retreat. And
But there's another question. What about knight g3?
I know, and I was thinking you could back that up with moves like f5, but okay, that requires a lot of calculation.
yeah, there's multiple ways to hit this black queen, and Magnus better have some answers up his sleeve, but Hikaru has slowed down. It's really tense. It feels like the critical moments could be around now.
Exactly. I also wanted just to point out that he spends this few seconds, or maybe even a little more, knight g3 or bishop h3.
Knight g3 played.
That queen has to move. The question is, where does she centralize? Oh, question mark attached to that move as well. Maybe a mistake, giving black an opportunity.
Maybe black can grab on g3, or what can be the problem?
Ooh, I'm thinking about going for the a2 pawn that you've both been mentioning a few times. Okay, the black queen just steps back.
Well, going for the a2 pawn.
Yeah, I wanted to go for it with the black queen.
And it's important now that queen e4 is not possible, because bishop d5 would win the exchange.
And both players under 3 minutes. Well, Hikaru just over. And we see a trade of bishops.
f5, look at that.
Wow, tactics galore.
Yeah, black
Don't
cannot
take enough.
take.
Yeah.
It's knight f5 and bishop h3. But maybe it's about time to take on a2.
No.
He wants to take with the queen. Big threat on the board. Queen takes a2 might be devastating, end in a checkmating attack.
But you can simply play some safety chess and move the king to protect that pawn. And he does do that. And now Magnus centralizing the knight.
And
And
now-
again, it just feels like anyone's game, although big threat on the board of knight coming into f3. And we see the same pattern keep repeating time and time again. You know, now the white queen attacks the pawn on a7.
Yeah, two can play at that game. He attacks the pawn and Magnus ignores it completely. Wow, nerves of steel. He's arguing that queen takes pawn is not as dangerous as it looks, because later on the black bishop will move and vacate a square for the black king on d7. Wow, okay. Hikaru, it feels like he needs to gamble. It's a bit like Magnus's game yesterday in the Armageddon against Wesley. Queen takes a7 happened there too, and it worked
Yeah.
out well for white.
But somehow this is not that position. When Magnus's queen was on a7, things started to become much better than before. And here the white square bishop will be incredibly strong of Magnus. And now we can see that the pawns are not really good of white. There are a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, black's king is safe. It's got extra protection around it, extra shelter compared to the white king. And like you say, Judith,
This is not something that you get away against Magnus.
not in classical at least, but this is Armageddon. 2 minutes now for white. Hikaru's down on the clock. Not good news for the American fans there. What to play? It's hard. There's tactics all over the place. You're
Well-
threatening to take this pawn, undermine the white knight on e4.
Also, knight c4 is a threat. Both.
I mean, isn't it time to mobilize the rook? And he does do that. And maybe there are some ideas of rook takes bishop in. I can see the evaluation, but hating white's position. But still, when the players have less than 2.5 minutes on the clock, it's going to get tense.
Wow, and we did see that there was a missed opportunity for Magnus. We saw the red cross appear with his last move, but he plays a very safe one. Can't blame him for that. There are going to be tactical opportunities later. He's up on time with a great position, as said there in the feature chat. Magnus Carlsen right now. Hikaru needs some magic.
He's allowed bishop takes pawn.
He's done it willingly. Maybe that was the lesser of the evils there. Smash and grab. That white pawn on a2 has disappeared, but white has gained some time in return. Going on the attack now, counter-attack. Hitting the black queen. Oh, Magnus is zooming in for the kill, Judith.
He's not joking here.
No, big threat on the board of queen a5 check. And something is going to happen on a2.
Something's going to happen. The queen and bishop combo there for black, looking really menacing. You need to block somehow with the white queen, with the white rooks. But it feels like it's hanging by a thread. Under 1 minute now for Hikaru.
Maybe he'll play some b4 or something just to protect this a2 square, but it's kind of hopeless.
Yeah, Magnus with a better position and also more time on the clock. And the players are on move 31, which means that still some moves left before they get that 1 second increment. And we see a set of rooks leave the board.
Yeah, Magnus is a pawn up and with the ongoing initiative, so that trade seems to help black.
Queen a4 seems to be quite quite a strong move. Queen h2 and queen h4, so kind of a double attack.
Yeah, that looks like a killer.
No, but Magnus decides to weave a mating net. Bishop comes down to b3. Big threat of queen a4 on the board.
Almost unstoppable threat. Unstoppable if you have 30 seconds at least. How does white get his pieces in? The white knight, the white bishop, they're just offside, unable to come back to the rescue of their king. As said in the feature chat there, Hikaru does need a miracle. With 30 seconds left, queen a4.
Goes away, still some... The fighting spirit is there.
Yes.
Yeah, but Hikaru, 23 seconds. And check. Uh-oh.
The white rook is going to drop. The white rook is undefended. Magnus wins it. But his knight falls. Hikaru's still fighting. Still in the game for now, at least.
I'm not even sure that Nakamura did not give it on purpose with bishop g4.
Yeah, I think he had to. He had to give something up, but Magnus playing for tricks now. Bishop takes pawn, really nasty. If the bishop was captured there, black had queen f4 check, picking up one of white's pieces, and now everything's coming through. Surely, Judith, this is going to be checkmate.
If it's not going to be checkmate, I think Magnus will be winning Hikaru's queen at the end of it.
On time.
Yep. And we see a handshake. Magnus takes the Armageddon victory with the black pieces.